All right. So welcome to everyone. For anyone who has joined in the last minute or so, my name is Shannon. I'm part of Tech Change, which is the organization bringing GDHF online this year alongside the GDHF team. And Katie as well is part of Tech Change. So we're here to answer all of your questions and provide kind of a brief overview of how you will be presenting your sessions in a digital format this year. And Christina, of course, is here as well for any questions that are not related to the technical aspects of things. So in the case that you have another question, she'll be able to also answer, more of the programmatic questions too. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. So this is just a short set of slides that will walk you through what the experience looks like, both from your side and from the participant view, just so you have a sense of how everything's going to look on the day of your session. Another thing to note is that I believe that you all have been notified of the type of session that you will be providing. So that may be a panel, a workshop, or a lab. And you'll want to pay particular attention to the type of session that you know that you're going to be a part of, because they do vary slightly. However, all sessions will take place via Zoom. So everyone who has joined a Zoom meeting, as you all have today, will likely feel rather comfortable with the kind of the method of presenting. All right, so the main goals of today's session will be to let you know how sessions are going to be accessed by the audience, how you and any other organizers of your sessions will join the call in order to present, the types of technical support that will be provided to you, and what your role is either as a speaker or the moderator or the person who's organizing the content of the session. So you'll notice this is of course an example from a previous conference that took place on the Tech Change platform. However, this is a very good example of what things will look like from the participant view when they are on the platform in order to join your session. So the platform will house all of the information regarding, the agenda. Every session will be listed within it. There will be information for participants. And because all of you, I believe, will also have registered to attend the conference alongside, presenting within it, you will also have access to this platform, and it will be available roughly 1 week before the conference is set to begin. And that will allow you to really get a sense of, how to navigate the platform and all of the other sessions that are taking place as well, since I'm sure many of you will want to attend a lot of the sessions that you're not presenting during as well. So you'll note at the very top here, there will be an agenda tab, and that agenda tab will essentially be a list of every session that's going to take place throughout the entire forum. The great thing about this is I know many of you will want to likely kind of promote your session to colleagues and people within your community. And the agenda does allow you to search via title as well as topic in order to find sessions. So should you like to sort of promote the name of your session to colleagues, all you'll need to do is let them know the title of it, and then they'll be able to search for it within the agenda. And the nice thing here as well is that no matter what time zone they're in, each participant is going to be setting their own time zone in the platform. So you won't need to, communicate what time you're going to be presenting. It will just be automatically updated based on their time zone from wherever they're joining. Another thing is that, and this is something that you can do as well as a participant too, you can RSVP to a session ahead of time just to make sure that you've kind of saved it as something that you plan to attend. And you'll also notice, especially for the session that you're planning on presenting, you'll start to see, faces kind of populate over here in this section to the right. To kind of indicate that there are people who have kind of saved your session as a session that they would like to attend. And you'll see as well, if you switch to the My Events tab, if you have saved these sessions for yourself, you'll be able to see them all in one place so you don't have to scroll through the rest of the agenda. And people are also welcome to add the sessions to their personal calendars, whether that be Outlook or Google, by using this feature that allows you to do so. So the great thing is that once you've kind of noted what the title of your session is to anyone that you really want to promote this to, they'll have multiple ways to sort of bookmark it for themselves. And they'll also see it appear in the agenda as the time approaches. It'll kind of come to the top since the agenda is set to make it so that you can see the immediate sessions that are about to begin. So the way that participants actually join the session when it's time to view is that this little button here, right now it says attending, will actually transform into a button that says join session. And that is how they will either view your session here on the platform as a live stream or join the Zoom meeting that you're presenting in. And we'll go further into what type of session has, what's set up in just a minute here. So if you are, oops, I think that this skipped one. So if you are presenting in a panel, you will be live streamed to the platform. So here we have a screenshot from another previous event, where you can see that if someone has clicked on that join event button, it actually keeps them in their web browser and they'll be seeing your Zoom meeting live streamed to the platform, almost like if they were watching it on YouTube or something like that. And so you'll see as well, there is this chat box to the right of the video, and that's where participants are able to interact with your session. And so in the case that you do have kind of a Q&A segment within your session, that's where the questions will be submitted. But once I get to the technical support aspects of this, we'll go through sort of how you're going to receive those questions so that you don't have to be watching on the platform at the same time. Before I move on from panels, one other thing to note is that there will be a few panels that have kind of, a special, kind of a special format in which rather than being live streamed will be in a Zoom webinar format. However, if your panel is one of those instances, we will reach out to you directly so that you know any of the differences in how this will actually look. But the majority of panels will indeed be live streamed. So for the moment, just soak in the information around live streaming because that's most likely what your panel will look like. All right. So if you're doing either a workshop or a lab, all participants will also access it via the agenda using that button that says join event, but that button will actually be linked to the Zoom meeting URL instead. So it's almost like if you had emailed a Zoom meeting invitation to someone. So they would click on that and they will enter into the waiting room of the Zoom meeting. And then once it's time for the session to begin, all of the participants will kind of come into the Zoom meeting with you so that you can begin your session. All right, so in terms of technical support, from your side, no matter what type of session you're presenting in, you're going to be joining via Zoom. And this is actually where you're presenting as well. So once you're in the Zoom meeting, you're all set. You will have actually 15 minutes before the session either goes live or allows participants in to get ready. And this is actually a really important point that we'll note quite a few times throughout the course of these slides, because these 15 minutes are really essential to the success of your session. So having those 15 minutes with all of the other speakers alongside the technical moderator who is going to be supporting you throughout the course of the session is really important to be able to, have some time to make sure that your video is working, that your audio is being picked up, to talk with the technical moderator about anything that you'll need to discuss before participants are able to view the session. And we'll go through all the different pieces of that, but punctuality is certainly just very important to make sure that you have that 15 minutes of preparation time before you start the session. So if you are part of a panel, before it's time to go live, your technical moderator will support you by first, providing a few tips around audio and video. So that's everything from, framing, making sure that you're you can see sort of just shoulders and head, that your lighting is primarily coming from in front of you, so you don't have kind of that silhouetted the silhouette where you can't actually see someone's face. You'll also want to just, turn on your microphone, make sure that you're, unmuted to test if everyone can hear you. You'll also want to talk to the technical moderator around whether you want to use speaker view or gallery view. And so the difference here is speaker view makes it so that each person who is speaking is shown one at a time. So for example, right now, if we were in speaker view, you would only see my video because my audio has activated that. But then, for example, if Katie began speaking, it would hide my video and show her video as the only one. Gallery view, however, is different in that you could see all speakers who have their video on next to each other, which could be good in the case that you plan to have more of a kind of back and forth style panel where each person, chimes in, kind of in a consistent manner. The technical moderator will also give you the appropriate controls should you need to do any screen sharing throughout the course of the session. So that would mean, for example, if you plan to share a set of slides, they'll be able to make sure that you have the right permissions to share your screen. Another thing that we'll provide to you if you do decide that you want to share your screen is just a really brief, kind of one pager on tips around using Zoom and screen sharing. We do ask that if you're doing a set of slides that you do the screen share independently, because it is a lot more seamless for you to be able to move through each slide as you're speaking, rather than having to kind of cut that up with instructions to someone else to move from slide to slide. Finally, there will be one other thing that the technical moderator shares with you during the 15-minute preparatory period, which is a Google document, which will be used actually to communicate with you in sort of an organized manner. And that I have kind of shown here. This is a screenshot of what your screen may look like on the day of the event. You could have, your Zoom meeting open on one side of the screen and then your Google document open on the other side. And rather than having to use the Zoom chat, all of the communications will actually go through this Google document. So you'll see at the top, for example, immediate communications such as, the technical moderator saying something like, you have 15 minutes left before the end of the session. All of those things will be at the top so that they're, able to be viewed immediately. However, because throughout the course of the session, there will be chats coming in from the audience on the platform, we wanted to make it possible for you to not have that platform open on the side at the same time, which can be very distracting because there is a slight lag between what you're saying in the Zoom meeting and what's shown on the platform. And no one wants to, hear their own voice just 10 seconds behind, because that can be very distracting. So rather than having the platform open, the technical moderator will be collecting questions and comments from the audience throughout the entire course of the session and adding them here into this Google document. And that will also make it easy for you to see every question that was submitted throughout the entire session in one place, so you can identify, or if the moderator, whoever is assigned to actually selecting and asking the questions, they'll be able to see those all in one place and choose the ones that seem to be the most relevant, or however many you're able to fit in at the end of the, during the Q&A portion of the session. I know that there have been quite a few chats coming through, and I didn't have my chat box open, but let's see if there are any questions regarding this before we move on. So the technical moderator, yes, the technical moderator is different from the session moderator, as the technical moderator will be focused on all of the the technical support that you'll receive throughout the session, whereas the moderator is kind of in the more traditional sense of the moderator, who will be, speaking to each panelist and asking questions. And then no way to show all participants. So participants will actually be viewing your session if you are in a panel. They'll be viewing it on the platform. So because they're not joining into that Zoom meeting with you, there won't be a way to see them, but they will be able to interact using that chat box and asking questions. All right. Any other questions before I move forward into workshops and labs?
I do see one other question about sharing slides. And so sharing slides in the presentation, that will be something that you will share for yourself. So you'll have a screen share, and the technical moderator will help you make sure that everything is set up as it should be in that 15-minute prep time. And so there's no need to send your slides to the technical moderator ahead of time because you will be handling them yourself. That's a good question.
Perfect. And the other question around using other forms of presentation, because you are entirely in charge of the type of presentation you'd like to share, you're very welcome to use Prezi instead of slides or Keynote. Whatever you're most comfortable with should be the format that you use, because of course you'll want to feel very familiar with what you're sharing. So whatever you choose is fine for us as well. All right, and regarding the slides being sent to the moderator, to the session moderator, absolutely, it probably makes a lot of sense to share that with the person who's going to be moderating the session. The platform will actually, in a sense, already have the slides because of the fact that your presentation will be recorded and archived on the platform. So even after your session is over, if it is a panel, what will happen is, say, for example, I'm in a time zone where it's not a convenient time for me to watch your live session, but then I sign on a few hours later, I can watch that as though it's live, even though, of course, it will just be a recording. So the slides will be, in a sense, recorded, but just, as part of that session recording. So that's possible as well.
Shannon, can I jump in?
Yeah.
For a second? Yeah, just to reiterate that we are, to Jean's point, asking, if moderators want to collect the slides in advance, we think that would be a good idea, just in case of any technical glitches. That way the moderator can share screen. But ultimately that is up to the speakers to have their slides ready for that day. And yep.
And I don't know if you want to address the question about how long a presentation in a panel should be. I don't know if that varies across each panel.
It does vary slightly. So your moderator should be in touch with you about how long your presentation should be. All panels are 75 minutes. Typically, I believe most of them have 3 presentations. So we're aiming for about 15 minutes. But again, that's something you should be discussing with your moderator.
Perfect. And then regarding the slides as well, I'm not sure how you plan to distribute them outside of the session, but I think it's fine for it to just be in presentation format for the actual screen share, but up to you if you want to also save it as PDF for another reason. All right. All right. And how do we identify our moderators to enable us to interact and plan ahead with them? So during the 15 minutes before your session, that's when you will meet your technical moderator, and that's where you'll be able to identify, the plan for the session if there's something that they'll need to support throughout that time. But with the moderators, as in the session moderators, as Christina just said, that's the person that you have been speaking with throughout the organization of the session.
Yeah, can I jump in? Sorry, Shannon, for 1 second.
Yeah.
So in case Gloria, or anybody else has an individual presentation, your individual presentation has been grouped with about 2 other presentations into a panel that will be assigned a moderator. So Your track lead should be connecting you with your moderator. I think some have already been connected with their moderators and some are still waiting to be connected. So that should happen in the next week or so. But feel free if you have not heard from, Jean. Jean is answering for Glory who the session moderator is, but you should be connected with your moderator for sure. Hopefully by the end of next week, if you have not already been in connected with them. So please do reach out to the forum email if you have not been, or your track lead for that information if you have not been connected.
And one other question that was submitted is whether the sessions are going to be recorded. I can confirm that the panels will absolutely be recorded because of the fact that they are live streamed. The workshops and labs, however, I think as we talk through them, I think we'll get to the point that it may be ideal for it not to be recorded, just to ensure that participants are able to engage in kind of a manner that they don't feel kind of, bashful about knowing that they're being recorded. So for the panels, because the only people who are being shown on screen are the speakers themselves, that will be recorded, whereas the workshops are kind of a different case. So it depends on what type of session you have as to whether that will be recorded or not. So I think this is a great segue into speaking about the workshops and labs. Sorry, actually we have one more slide about the panels. Let me just really quickly get through this and then we'll move on to the workshops and labs. So if you are in a panel, before it's time to go live, your technical moderator will kind of provide a countdown for you so that the 15-minute preparatory period is about to end, and you will be soon going live for the audience to view. They'll also provide timekeeping throughout the course of the session using that Google Doc. They'll relay the questions to you, as I mentioned, from the platform chat. And then when it's time for the session to be, completed, they will actually end that live stream. But it's really, it's helpful to first remember that it's important to stay to time, because we don't want any session to run late and then cause another session to have less time remaining for them if they're, immediately following you. And another thing is, before the session is no longer live streaming, it's helpful to just kind of remind yourself to sort of hold that live face until you've heard confirmation that you're no longer streaming. And at that point, once the stream is over, your technical moderator will let you know so that you can, say goodbye to the other panelists and sign out of the Zoom meeting. All right, and I did see, I don't know if there were a couple more chats related to panels. All right, so it looks like there are some questions about breakout rooms. So this is perfect because we're just now going into the workshops, which are the ones that will have kind of the more traditional Zoom features that you're familiar with. So if you are presenting in a workshop or a lab, you will be actually inside of the Zoom meeting with your participants. So the technical moderator will provide support, including setting up breakout rooms. So during that 15-minute period ahead of time, it's really important that you are able to sort of share the agenda of your session with the technical moderator, so that they know when there's going to be breakout rooms, how often they'll take place, how many people you'll want to set as the maximum for each breakout room. You'll also be able to let them know if you want the view to be, one person at a time or gallery view, because I believe the majority of labs and workshops are setting roughly a 40-person limit. It's absolutely possible that you suggest to your participants that they, that they're active, both on video as well as, in a perhaps written or audio manner. So if you, depending on how you want to set that up, you may want to have your session moderator or whoever the first speaker is kind of provide an overview to the participants at the beginning of the session around how the interactions will take place. So for example, if you would like to have, kind of a beginning period where it's almost kind of presentation style, where you won't have the audience or the participants interacting as much, just kind of give them an overview of that and then let them know that they may have discussions during breakout sessions. They might, or breakout in their breakout rooms. They might have, a period where you want everyone to have their video on and for everyone to perhaps even come off mute to ask questions aloud. Whatever format you plan to use in your workshop or lab, it's just really helpful to, have just kind of like that one little announcement at the beginning of the session to let them know what the expectations are and how you plan to kind of have interaction throughout the course of the session. Additionally, if you are planning to share your screen during the course of the session, the technical moderator will make sure that you have the ability to do so. And we will actually be sharing a Google Doc that you are allowed to use if you'd like. However, this Google Doc will be a bit different from how it works in the panels because rather than it being a way to communicate with the technical moderator in a private manner, it will actually be something that we encourage you to share with all of the participants as well. And the reason that we provide this is a Google document will allow everyone to be editing the document at the same time. So if, for example, you have breakout rooms and you'd like people to take notes and, leave their takeaways from each group in a place where everyone can read it, the Google Doc could be a great place for that. You can also paste your agenda into there so that people are able to review that throughout the course of the session and know what's coming next. And then you can also keep this Google Doc after the session is complete. Because, for example, in the past, we've had people who have run workshops who have asked afterward for the chat transcript. However, just due to privacy concerns, sometimes, the chat transcript can include, one-on-one messages as well. So for example, if I, sent a question just to Katie, that might actually come out in the chat transcript. So for that reason, just for, participant privacy reasons, we don't share that afterwards. So if there's any sort of documentation that you want to have available after the session, we recommend that rather than asking participants to submit questions in the chat, that perhaps they, submit that in your Google Doc, and then that way everything will be available after the fact in that place. All right, and then before your session is about to begin, the technical moderator will let you know, it's almost time to start, so you can get ready to begin. Then they will allow the appropriate number of participants in from the waiting room. So I think, and Christina, definitely feel free to let me know if the number I'm noting is incorrect, but I believe we've landed on most workshops and most labs having 40 participants as the cap. Is that right?
Yeah, I think the labs and workshops are coordinating with Trinity on what cap they want, but I think we have landed around 40 and most are agreeing to around that to keep it interactive.
Perfect. So once those 40 participants are let in, the technical moderator will send a message to any participants in the waiting room that were not able to be let in if they were above the 40 that had kind of made the first come first serve limit, so that they can be directed back to the platform or to another session or something to make sure that they continue to be engaged in the forum. The technical moderator will also share the link for that Google document to the participants in the case that you do decide you'd like to use it. They'll set up the breakout rooms as planned, and then when it's time for the session to end, because they will be the kind of the host of the Zoom meeting itself, they will be able to close that meeting so that everyone will be released from the Zoom meeting. And similar to the panels, it's really important that all workshops and labs also keep to time, just because, you know, the forum has so many exciting sessions happening all at once. We would never want one session to end up, you know, running into the next one and causing another set of presenters to not have the full time allotted to them. All right, so before we move on to kind of what everyone's role is within this, I saw a couple of chats come through. All right, so for workshops, it will be the Zoom meeting format. That is correct. So if you're doing a workshop, it will be meeting, which will allow the participants to you know, interact in a way that's a little bit more participatory rather than, you know, kind of watching more as audience members. So in the case that you do, for example, have a period in which you do want to present and then later involve them in more interactive ways, the technical moderator will be able to mute participants if necessary, if, you know, someone is interrupting a presentation and they shouldn't actually be interacting until a little bit later. So if you can just, you know, be clear with the technical moderator ahead of time around what the expectations are, then they'll be able to, you know, send messages to participants as well if they need to just be notified that, you know, the interaction comes a bit later in the agenda. Will speakers and session moderators have hosting powers? So in the workshops, absolutely. We're very happy to make you co-hosts in the case that you would like to, you know, be able to, you know, mute participants, for example, or screen share, anything that you need to do, just feel free to let the technical moderator know ahead of time who should be made co-host. And that could be, you know, all of the speakers or maybe just the moderator, whoever it is that makes most sense to have with those controls. Do you need a list of which participants? So for the thing about the breakout rooms is unfortunately we can't assign people ahead of time because we don't know which people will actually be joining the meeting until it actually starts. So we won't need a list of names for each breakout room because, you know, it would just be the first 40 people to arrive in the waiting room. So it will be randomly sorted. But you can determine the number of people you want in each room, as well as, you know, the length of time that you want the breakouts to last. And then just, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say they're on the breakout room, so you'll at least, the technical moderator will need to know at least who's leading each breakout from the workshop facilitator teams. Is that correct?
Right. Yes. So if you want to have a facilitator in each of those breakout rooms, then do let the technical moderator know. There are a lot of different ways to set that up as well. So I know that in the past, sometimes if there's only, you know, one or two moderators, they will even just, you know, give time to the participants alone. But however you want to set that up, just make sure that you communicate that to the technical moderator in the 15 minutes before the session. And then one other question I saw about the panels, just to bounce back really quickly. For the panels, will the presenters be able to see who is attending? So you won't be able to see who is attending, you know, in the Zoom meeting, of course, since they're separate from the Zoom meeting, but there will be data that's shared afterward around how many people attended, if that is something that you would be interested in finding out afterward. You also, you know, would be able, for example, to confirm, you know, that a person attended if they've left a chat message with their name in the chat box next to the video. However, typically, you know, that's not necessarily information that you're kind of seeing throughout the course of the session, since you'll be focused on the Zoom meeting itself rather than looking on the platform. But you can absolutely kind of go back in, see the recording, see who, you know, responded in that chat box, and get a sense of who attended. All right. So just to kind of note for, you know, either people who are organizing sessions, like organizing the content, or being the moderator to kind of, you know, bring all of the different speakers together. Some of the responsibilities that you'd have in this role are just to make sure that you're coordinating with speakers throughout the course of the time between now and the forum. making sure that all information is communicated to them regarding the content, the show flow. So, in what order people are going to be speaking, and just really making sure that you and all speakers are in that Zoom call 15 minutes before it's time to go live. So, if you're the kind of the person who knows the full list of who's supposed to be there, it's really important to also kind of flag that to us in the case that, you've noticed that one or two speakers have not yet arrived, because we definitely want to make sure that people are reached out to in the case that, they've maybe misinterpreted the time or something like that. It's also helpful if you can kind of collect a consensus on whether it should be gallery or speaker view, if anyone's going to be screen sharing, just so everyone has a sense of, what's going on in that session, and that can be kind of collected by one person. As a speaker, it's pretty similar responsibilities. You'll want to make sure that you've been able to, connect with the moderator or, the other people in your session. You'll want to absolutely make sure you're in that Zoom call 15 minutes ahead, as mentioned before. And you'll also want to just kind of get a little bit familiar with Zoom in the time that you have between now and the forum, in the case that you're not already, regularly using it. I know today, for example, we're all in this Zoom meeting together, so hopefully this is a good introduction in the case that you haven't had to use it so far. But you'll want to, just make sure that you can turn on your video, that, you have the Zoom app on your desktop. You'll probably want to, kind of find a place where you're going to want to sit during the course of your session, and test that the lighting is good where you'll be sitting, that you can kind of put your laptop or device up on a a place where you can kind of be eye level, so that it feels like the audience is just sitting across the table from you. Just any sort of pre-session practice that you want to set up for yourself to feel as comfortable as possible is very much encouraged. All right, so now we have a bit of time for any additional questions, and I'm just reopening the chat as well in case there were more that came through. Okay, for breakout rooms, will it be possible to have someone from our team help moderate those who is not a designated speaker? In the case that you, and Christina, let me know if if you have a different approach to this.
Yeah.
Do you want to go?
Yeah, so we're handling that on a case by case basis, since we have like our speakers, and then for workshops specific, we're all working out some ways to get in extra facilitators if from the teams if needed. So I just asked, if you're a workshop and you have questions about getting in facilitators just for your workshop session, please coordinate that with Trinity, who's I know you all have been in touch with. But Shannon, is there anything you want to add about that, or is that
No,
answer?
yeah, I mean, yeah, in the case that, for example, you have someone who is not a speaker who's going to be helping out in that form, you're absolutely welcome to just let the technical moderator know ahead of time and provide them with their name, just so
Oh,
that they
okay.
know.
Okay, that's a good note. We are keeping track of those extra facilitators, Shannon, so we can provide that to your team.
Great, perfect. All right. And yes, we have been recording today's session. Christina, I know that we are planning on, using this as a way to share with anyone who's unable to join, but in the case that this would be helpful, is there a place perhaps that we could make this recording available?
Sure, we can post it to we have a YouTube channel now. So if you send us the recording, we can post it to our YouTube and send it to all of our speakers.
Great, that sounds good. All right, any other questions? All right. And I know as well, I noted a couple of sort of, one pagers or briefing packets that will be helpful, that will be communicated to you as well throughout the course of the next few weeks. One will just provide you a little bit of information, just a few tips around using Zoom in the case that you do plan to do a screen share, as well as, little information about, how to change your display name or anything that could be helpful if you aren't yet super familiar with Zoom. We'll also have a briefing packet specifically for presenters of panels and specifically for presenters in the webinar and lab format sessions as well. So thank you all for taking the time today, and all of this information will continue to be available to you throughout the course of the next few weeks while you prepare. All right. Well, thank you all.
Thanks, Shannon. Thanks, Katie. Thanks all.
All right. Have a great day, everyone.